Booster Gold is one of my most anticipated projects from James Gunn's DCU. Back a year ago now, in January of 2023, James Gunn announced a partial slate for Chapter 1 of the DCU, and one of those projects announced was a Booster Gold series for Max. And this is a project I could not be more excited for. Honestly, probably the one I'm most excited for, like top three, would be Superman Legacy, Booster Gold, and probably the Green Lantern series. Booster Gold, I'm just so excited for this. A character I grew up with, watching in cartoons, mainly Batman the Brave and the Bold. Just such a fun, funny character that has always had a lot of potential, but has never been brought to live action on the big screen. He was in live action on Smallville, but I mean, early 2000s, budget wasn't great. It wasn't the best version of the character, so I'm really excited to see the DCU's take on this character. There was at one point supposed to be a movie in the DCEU, but, Warner Brothers, DC, they did that whole thing for a couple years where they'd announce a project and then it would go nowhere. We were supposed to get a Plastic Man movie, a Lobo movie, a Deathstroke movie, who knows what else, but clearly none of those went anywhere. The Trench movie, oh my god. But yeah, we were supposed to get a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie. That went nowhere, but now it looks like we could be getting a Booster Gold, we are getting a Booster Gold series in the DCU from James Gunn. And one of the biggest things with this show and this character, really just the DCU in general, is casting. Now that the project's been announced, everybody's fan casting who could play Booster Gold. One of the names at the top of that list is Chris Pratt, because, it's pretty obvious. James Gunn worked with him on Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn has said that some of his cast members from Guardians would join him in the DCU. And, Chris Pratt, I do think, has a future with Marvel, especially with the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He will continue as Star-Lord, but he would make a great Booster Gold. He's just got the energy and the comedic timing to play a character like that. But again, I think he'll be staying around in the MCU for a while. Now, the other big choice that's been floating around is Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell, obviously great actor, and, he's got the looks to be Booster Gold for sure. Some of this fan art out there, he looks pretty fantastic as Booster Gold. But, I love this casting idea. If it ended up happening, I'd be happy with it. And definitely, some people have fan cast him as Green Lantern, Hal Jordan as well. So definitely over the next couple of years, expect to see Glenn Powell cast as some sort of superhero, whether that's Marvel or DC. But today, we are talking about another casting idea for Booster Gold, and that is Seann William Scott. This comes at us from an exclusive interview with Seann William Scott from comicbook.com, where in the interview, he was simply asked, if you could play a superhero, Marvel or DC, whatever, who would you want to play? And he suggested Booster Gold. He even shouted out James Gunn and said, come on, James Gunn, let's go. So he wants to play this character, and I want him to play this character. I think this would be a fantastic casting idea. Seann William Scott, I love this guy. This man is hilarious. I know him mainly from the American Pie franchise, which really a guilty pleasure movie franchise for me. Like, some of my favorite movies of all time, but obviously I don't tell a whole lot of people about that because I'm a film guy. I gotta say these higher quality, more cinema films and all that stuff. But man, American Pie, I love those movies. Those are hilarious, so relatable for me as well. And Seann William Scott is one of the key pieces to this franchise. And an interesting story with him as well, because originally in the first American Pie movie, he was supposed to be a very minor character, and in fact, the actor was barely paid anything at all, but because of fan reception to his character in that first film, he got bumped up to eventually, by the end of the franchise, is one of the main characters as Stifler. And man, Stifler, such an iconic, hilarious character, mostly in part due to Seann William Scott. Again, his comedic timing is top notch. I've watched some of the behind the scenes clips of him improvising lines because he's such a quotable character. He says some of the most ridiculous stuff. And it's so funny seeing some of these lines were just completely improvised on the spot, where they have the scene and then the director's like, all right, just make something up here, and then he really goes for it. Like, one of my favorites, I think, I believe it was an American Wedding, when he's just like, well, polish my nuts and serve me a milkshake. It's just hilarious and so random and so out of the blue, but that is exactly why I think he would fit so well with a character like Booster Gold. I mean, this would just be fantastic. And yes, those other actors would be great as well. But, Chris Pratt, Glenn Powell, they're very exposed actors. They're very well-known actors. I love that Seann William Scott is I guess he's more of a lesser-known actor. Back in the day, the late 90s, early 2000s, he was really big. But nowadays, he, at least as far as I'm aware, he hasn't done a whole lot, at least not anything big recently. So this would be a big deal for him. And I think this would be fantastic. I think he really deserves something like this. And I really like this choice. I think this would be fantastic. James Gunn even has shown a history of doing fan cast, bringing fan cast to life, as seen with David Cornsweet as Superman. And he's even said on Twitter and Threads that, like, they do look at fan casting and see if it's something that they actually like. And Seann William Scott, I think, would be a perfect Booster Gold, especially also if we do, we know we're continuing Xolo Dueña as Blue Beetle into the DCU. We don't know if that whole movie is going to be canon, but if it is, Jason Sudeikis supposedly would be our Ted Kord of the DCU, so we could still do that Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, and Booster Gold team up, and Jason Sudeikis and Seann William Scott are around a similar age here, so I could see that, because that is one of the issues, is like, Seann William Scott is on the older side, especially in comparison to somebody like Glenn Powell specifically, but hey, I mean, I'll take an older Booster Gold. I think it'd work. I think it would be funny. You could really play that up as well, because part of his character is kind of a washed up wannabe fake character. So I think Seann William Scott would be perfect for that. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this idea of Seann William Scott playing Booster Gold in the DCU? And if you have any other casting ideas in mind, let me know in the comments below as well. So thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I keep it up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.